Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. Let read together. Have fun. This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Yu Shangrong maintained this posture without moving. If this had happened to anyone, they would consider their options carefully. Put aside the possibilities of dying, if one were told to sever one's leg to continue living, would one be brave enough to do it? At this moment, Yu Shangrong was facing such a choice. Although it was not as cruel as severing his legs, severing the golden lotus was just as difficult to accept. For cultivators, their cultivation base was their life. Without their cultivation base, they would be a good for nothing. It was no different from being dead. Night fell. There was no light at all inside the Melilot graveyard. Yu Shangrong held his scabbard. He occasionally lifted the longevity sword with his thumb. The sound of the longevity sword sliding against the scabbard was exceptionally clear and piercing at this moment. It sounded like a butcher was sharpening his knife. This went on for nearly an entire night. When the dim light from above shone into the graveyard, Yu Shangrong's thumb had stilled. There was a predetermined end to everything. Perhaps, this ending had been written in stone since the day he left Brackish Mountain in his youth. Was death terrifying? He would die without his cultivation base, sooner or later, anyway. Zing. Yu Shangrong lifted the longevity sword forcefully with his thumb. With a force greater than before, his longevity sword shot into the air. Yu Shangrong's expression was determined as he rose to his feet and gripped his longevity sword. Meanwhile, his 100 Tribulations Insight avatar illuminated the entire Melilot graveyard. He did not even look as he swung his longevity sword. Swoosh. Sometimes, a forceful swing was not used to kill opponents. After Yu Shangrong swung his sword, he looked at his 100 Tribulations Insight avatar coldly. The purple golden lotus was detached from the avatar above, independent of one another. His avatar stayed in the air while the golden lotus fell. Even under such circumstances, Yu Shangrong did not wish to appear miserable. He quickly tapped a few meridian points on his body before he sat with his legs crossed. The instant he sat, his face turned ghastly pale, and sweat broke out on his face. The lower half of his avatar fell on the ground and vanished as the upper half merged with his body. Shortly after, his Dantian sea of qi underwent a sudden change. He felt as though a tsunami had broken out within himself. How powerful could a person be? He was still capable of maintaining a calm attitude even when he was so close to death. His expression remained unchanged. He was determined and indomitable. He felt as though he was being roasted inside a volcano. His primal qi seemed to be trying to escape its vessel as it ricocheted inside his body. He remained unmoving as a mountain and endured it. Time passed. After an unknown period of time, Yu Shangrong sensed that his consciousness was still intact. He opened his eyes suddenly. His cultivation base had deteriorated greatly. From the 8-leaf stage, it fell to the 7-leaf stage, and then, to the 6-leaf stage. The primal qi contained within his Dantian sea of qi leaked out slowly. 5-leaf, 4-leaf, 3-leaf, 2-leaf, 1-leaf. Blood started to trickle from the edge of his lips. However, Yu Shangrong did not despair from this. On the contrary, a satisfied smile appeared on his lips. Although he was gravely wounded and lost his lotus leaves, at the very least, he was still alive. Without his golden lotus, it was only natural for him to be without any leaves. That much was expected. That's nothing. All I have to do is to sprout leaves again. His voice sounded confident and lively inside the Melilot graveyard. His glory merely existed in his memories now. However, if one failed in life, all they had to do was to start over. Meanwhile, Great Yan's Liang and Yi provinces were experiencing rapid changes. Inside the evil sky pavilion, Ming Shirin brought Zhenghai Jian's letter into the Great Hall. He looked at his master seated on his throne and said, "Master, Zhenghai wrote in his letter that the imperial family has dispatched the army to Liang province. The nations, Lu Lan and Roli, have also sent their cultivators over. With Si Wuya's intelligence, he would not likely miss this. We'd have to wait patiently for any changes in the situation." Zhou said nothing. Instead, he looked at the value of his merit points on the system dashboard. He was deliberating about the best way to spend them. He was about to capture Si Wuya and Zhenghai. Indeed, he would have to wait and see. Merit points, 17,900. Perhaps, he was already used to the system's tricks. Zhou found that he no longer had a temper. He was quite calm. "It's only 100,000 merit points. I'll just have to take it slow." When he saw that his master did not respond, Mingxian left the Great Hall in a respectful manner. The next day, Mingxian went into the Great Hall with Zhenghai's letter in his hand again. He saw his master painting. This meant that his master was in a good mood. He felt emboldened by this. He walked up to Zhou and said directly, "Master, Zhenghai wrote in his letter that the imperial family has intentionally given up on Yi province. They sent the fourth prince, Liu Bing, to quell the disturbance in Liang province." However, Si Wuya seemed to have predicted this. The Nether Sect's branches in Great Yan's 9 provinces are deliberately wreaking havoc. Currently, the empire is in a mess. Zhou stopped moving his hand. As expected, these two rascals wanted to cause a great disturbance under the heavens and go against the divine capital. Could they do it? Nobody knew. If Zhenghai had operated alone, it might have been impossible. However, with Si Wuya's help, the outcome became uncertain. Si Wuya's darknet was an unbelievably vast force. Even Zhenghai was wary of it. Needless to say, everyone else feared it as well. After muttering to himself for a while, Zhou said, "Did Zhenghai mention anything about the imperial family's research on the 9-leaf stage?" "He didn't." "Remind him." "Yes, master." Zhou did not care about the disturbances in Yi and Liang provinces. Even if the whole world was plunged into chaos, it was nothing but the doings of the Nether Sect behind the scenes. Without clear information, he would not easily make a move. What Zhou needed was to stay patient, and patience was what his host, Ji Tiandao, lacked the most. Before making any move, it was better for him to find out more about the 9-leaf stage. On the third day, Mingxian was clearly in more of a rush compared to before. Apart from him, even little Yuan and Duanmu Sheng entered the Great Hall as well. "Master, a letter from Zhenghai." Cut to the chase, Zhou said. "Zhenghai says that Princess Yuan'er will head to Liang province with the fourth prince. The Nether Sect is pincered by enemies on both sides. It seems that they weren't able to escape." A hint of incredulity could be heard in Mingxian's tone when he read the letter. Zhou was slightly taken aback. He stopped writing. With a wave of his hand, the letter in Mingxian's hand flew into his own. Zhou scanned its contents before he said with a frown, "With Si Wuya's skills, they shouldn't have been surrounded this easily." "Princess Yuan'er? Princess Yuan'er is only a woman. Why would she go to Liang province with Liu Bing?" Mingxian was puzzled. At this moment, Zhu Honggong's loud voice rang from outside. "Greetings, master." When Mingxian heard this fellow's voice, he felt annoyed for some reason. He said with a hint of threat, "8th junior brother, just spit whatever it is you have to say, and be quick about it." Zhu Honggong chuckled and said, "Master, I know about this Princess Yuan'er. Go on." Zhou sat down. "Princess Yuan'er fancies 7th senior brother. I've only heard 7th senior brother mention her once. I don't know anything else," Zhu Honggong replied. "An old acquaintance?" Mingxian's eyes widened. It's no wonder he managed to escape from Han Yuyuan. That's why he knew so much about the happenings inside the palace. That's how he managed to force Zhenghai to take shelter inside the evil sky pavilion. He had a princess supporting him all this time. I never took the cultured 7th junior brother to be such a beast. Everyone could hear the envy in Mingshi Yin's words. It sounded like the whining of a single man. Duanmu Shang glanced at Mingshi Yin. Then, he blew on his overlord spear before he began wiping it with his sleeve. With a smile, little Yuan said, "Is Sister Yongning pretty?" "I've never seen her before," Zhu Honggong replied. Mingshi Yin said, "Little junior sister, don't interrupt us." "Master, this isn't as simple as it seems. It must be a trap by old 7th. Little Yuan nodded as though she was a chick pecking for grains. Lu Zhou stroked his beard as he nodded and considered it. He had 2 more strengthened binding cage cards, 1 deadly strike card, and his extraordinary power was sufficient. He had the means to capture Si Wuya and Zhenghai. The problem was, where would they show themselves? After thinking about it for a moment, Lu Zhou stood slowly. He looked at Mingshi Yin and said, "If you were Si Wuya, what would you do?" Mingshi Yin stroked his chin and said thoughtfully, "If I were Si Wuya, I would never place myself in harm's way. However, I might just act contrary to convention." After he said this, he felt that something was wrong and added, "If old 7th does have a connection with Princess Yongning, she might actually show up in Liang province. As for eldest senior brother, it's not unlikely that he's in danger. I think eldest senior brother is trying to create a diversion." Duanmu Shang was still rubbing down his overlord spear like nobody's business. Lu Zhou nodded. He felt that it was logical. Then, he looked at Zhu Honggong and asked, "What do you think?" Zhu Honggong said, "Master, you're asking me?" Without waiting for a reply from Lu Zhou, Mingshi Yin rolled his eyes and said, "Just answer the question." He thought to himself, this oaf won't feel at ease unless he's flattering another person. I have to stop this habit of his no matter what. Zhu Honggong said, "If I were 7th senior brother, I'll immediately return to the evil sky pavilion, obediently kneel before you, kowtow, and ask for forgiveness." Mingshi Yin was speechless. "That's it. I've had enough." He kicked Zhu Honggong. "Ow." Zhu Honggong stumbled to the side. He said, in pain, "I'm telling the truth." Lu Zhou had no intention of punishing Zhu Honggong, but his answer was truly meaningless. Si Wuya was not Zhu Honggong. Since he chose to aid Zhenghai and make an enemy out of the imperial court, he must have his reasons. Also, Zhenghai's departure was similar to Shangrong, but there was also a great difference between the two. All this could only be resolved once Lu Zhou found the memory crystals. According to the piece of information Yu Shangrong gave him, since his host, Ji Tiandao, had sealed the memories away, it meant that he did not wish for anyone to know where he stored them. Si Wuya was the smartest disciple among the 9. If he did not know where it was, it would be impossible for the others to know anything about it. "Master, I think 7th senior brother will go to Liang province," little Yuan said. Mingshi Yin turned to look at little Yuan and asked, "Why? Did little junior sister have an epiphany?" "Gut feeling," little Yuan replied. Mingshi Yin felt speechless. One of them is stupid, and the other is dumb. Why do I have such juniors? Lu Zhou stroked his beard and said, "Why would you have this gut feeling? If Sister Yongning is really helping him out, I don't think he'd stand back and see Sister Yongning fall into the hands of the other tribesmen, right?" Little Yuan said. Mingshi Yin rolled his eyes and said, "He's the fastest runner around here." The two of them had clashing opinions. However, this time, Lu Zhou agreed with little Yuan. Although her judgment was based on simple theories of friendship, it was usually such elements that form the most fatal of weaknesses. Since time immemorial, even the heroes had a weakness for the charms of beautiful women. Would Si Wuya be the same? Meanwhile, inside one of the Nether Sect's branches far, far away, Zhenghai was in an exceptionally good mood. He looked out the window with his hands on his back and said, "With 7th junior brother looking after the Nether Sect, the world will be mine sooner or later. Now that all 9 provinces are in chaos, I'd like to see what the imperial family would do." "Eldest senior brother, this is only the beginning. Let's not underestimate our foes yet," Si Wuya replied. That dog of an emperor is nothing without the divine capital's imperial guards and the 10-terminal formation. Wuya said, in terms of cultivation base, it's only natural for you to be the best under the heavens, eldest senior brother. Junior brother, such words mustn't be said lightly. I'm only bold enough to claim that I'm second best, Zhenghai said. Wuya did not continue with the topic. Instead, he sat down and looked at the map on the big table before him. With the divine capital at the center, the human settlements around it had been labeled. Everything was going smoothly. So smoothly that he found it odd. When Zhenghai saw Wuya deep in thoughts, he asked, "Are you worried about the other tribes, junior brother?" Eldest senior brother, Lu Gu is an extremely patient man. He didn't even meet the emperor when the second prince, Lu Huan, and Emily died. In fact, he grounded the crown prince, Lu Ji. Wuya said thoughtfully, could it be that he's willing to see his own empire trampled upon by the other tribes? He won't. When the other tribes were mentioned, Zhenghai was suddenly angered. He glared and said, one day, I'll surely sweep through Lulan with my saber, and I won't return until I've killed every last soul of that foul land. Don't worry, senior brother. Lulan rules with witchcraft, which isn't very powerful when you think about it. We'll destroy them sooner or later, and you'll have your revenge. Zhenghai remained silent when Wuya expected him to speak. Throughout the years, he had learned how to suppress his own emotions. Wuya said, Emily is dead. If we can seize this opportunity and incite a feud, all we have to do is sit back and reap the benefits when the time is right. Zhenghai nodded in satisfaction. Junior brother. In that case, you shouldn't go to Liang province. Stay here with me, have a drink, and let's enjoy the moon together. Isn't it much better to devise strategies in a tent and watch the tigers fight on another mountain? Wuya shook his head. I'll have to decline. This opportunity is very important, and I must be there. If Jiang Aijian left the evil sky pavilion, my sources inside the palace can no longer be trusted. When Jiang Aijian was mentioned, Zhenghai frowned. The great third prince of Great Yen, and he had to give himself some nonsensical name. Aijian? I think he's despicable, that's what he is. If I were to see him, I'll surely teach him a lesson on your behalf, junior brother. Wuya was not offended by such trivial matters. He shook his head when he heard this. Finally, he stood up, cupped his fists at Zhenghai, and said, it's getting late. Senior brother, we'll meet again. Zhenghai said in a slightly disapproving tone, are you really going? You can't be worrying about that Princess Yongning, right? Please trust me, senior brother. Wuya did not want to explain himself at length. He bowed at Zhenghai. When Zhenghai saw how determined Wuya was, he shook his head and sighed before saying, how about this, let my 4 great protectors accompany you there. Eldest senior brother. Before he could finish, Zhenghai raised a hand and cut him short. He said sternly, that's my bottom line. My cultivation base is already restored. Why would you worry? You, on the other hand, if something were to happen to you, I won't be able to eat or sleep in peace. Wuya had no choice but to say, thank you, eldest senior brother. The next morning, the sun shone on the eastern pavilion of the evil sky pavilion. Zhou opened his eyes. He called up the system dashboard to check his remaining life and merit points. Remaining life, 6,769 days. All this while, he had been thinking about the 9-leaf stage and forgotten all about earning merit points. He was surprised to see that so much time had passed. When he thought about what happened yesterday, he used 10 reversal cards. By now, nobody was suspicious about the activities in the Eastern Pavilion. The amassing of life energy made Zhou feel energetic. Although he reversed his life for a similar time period, there were still some minor changes in him. If he studied his own reflection, he would look no different from before. However, at a casual glance, he seemed livelier. Zhou dared not use too many reversal cards in one go. If his appearance were to change too drastically, his disciples would surely ask questions. If the changes were minute and gradual, they would not be too noticeable, and his imposing air would not be compromised. After 10 reversal cards were used, he was left with 33. At this moment, the column for his life showed 9,769 days. Not bad. Zhou looked at his merit points. Merit points, 17,900. It was early in the morning, and he felt rejuvenated. This prompted him to attempt the lucky draws. He did 10 draws in a row and was thanked 10 times. When he did not get any prize, he felt much more awake. At this moment, Zhao Yu's voice rang from outside. Master, the monks of the Heaven Choice Temple have left at first light. They wanted to bid their farewells to you but were worried that they would disturb you. I see. Zhou gave it some thought before he waved his arm. The peacock plume appeared. With another wave of his arm, it vanished. He emerged from the eastern pavilion and looked at Zhao Yu. Call your little junior sister over. Zhou felt that, perhaps, it was time for him to visit Liang province. Master. Little junior sister has been cultivating late into the night and might still be sleeping at the moment. Kindly give me the order if there's anything that needed to be done. When Zhao Yu heard about yesterday's happenings from Mingxirin, she guessed that her master must be thinking about going out. Hence, she volunteered herself. Cultivating? That little girl is becoming more and more hardworking. It was a good thing. Zhou looked at Zhao Yu and said, Did you sprout any leaves on your avatar? Zhao Yu appeared embarrassed. She said, I haven't. I've just entered the nascent divinity tribulation realm and have been studying the sky dagger lately. She was speaking more quickly now. I'll do my best to sprout leaves as soon as possible. Without any leaves, the difference in cultivation base would be too great. She's not the most reliable choice for my protection. He considered it for a moment. While maintaining the same expression on his face, he slowly said, Summon your little junior sister here. Yes, master. Zhao Yu bowed and left. Inwardly, she thought to herself, Master sure treats little junior sister well. Her cultivation base isn't too profound, and she's rude and impetuous at times. However, Master's willing to bring her out with him.